You know goddamn well what PALWORLD is. If you don't, go find a different video first and then come back here. We're keeping it quick this video, and I'll try to not yap away without meaning. New game released, PALWORLD. It's most definitely a hit with people, and I don't need to start talking about current players or sales, because it is hot at the moment, but I think it's just another slop of the month as usual. It's an early access game that blew up for no reason once released, and more so following the situation, which I'll get to once I've quickly reviewed the game in my classical Matrix style. It's an open world survival game, and our monkey brains still love collecting rocks and sticks, and I don't think that will change. But it's with Pokemon, but with guns. It does a lot of things right and wrong. Not yet. As a survival game, the formula it uses is hard to fuck up, which I think Soviet Womble has already talked about nicely in his Daisy video essays. You create a problem or an urgency that needs to be solved, a health bar slowly depleting or whatever, and to solve it you go out and get food or water. It's a very simple formula that can have varying degrees of difficulty depending on how you set up the world and or character. So I don't really have an issue with it as a survival game. It does that job pretty well. What you don't see too often in survival games, at least the ones I play, is the ability to climb up pretty much anything. It's not a huge feature by any means, but I feel like it's overlooked a lot of the time. So by adding it to the game, they added an interesting feature at least. Whoa, that's just Breath of the Wild footage. And being able to parachute also allows you to cross cliffs and rivers compared to jogging around for hours trying to get past certain parts of the map. Hey, that's just Breath of the Wild again. A lot of people compare this to Ark, Rust, Elden Ring, Fortnite, Satisfactory, Breath of the Wild, and Pokemon, and Ace Combat 6. Okay, that last one's a joke. Personally, I don't see some of it. Satisfactory? Yes. Ark? Yes. Breath of the Wild? Yes. Elden Ring? No. Fortnite? No. Rust? Not really. Ace Combat 6? Not really. Pokemon? I promise we'll talk about it soon. I find this game fun, I see why people like it, the music isn't bad or anything, there's tons to do and I see the potential of the game. But it is an early access game and I see some problems with it. Some of this might be nitpicking, but you start freezing the second the clock strikes midnight. The UI is jarring as fuck, which is what turned me away from Ark to begin with. Don't place the crafting table between a chest and a repair bench. Worst mistake of my life. The game jokes and parodies a bunch of stuff, but I think some of it is too on the nose and is reaching dangerous levels of Family Guy. Also, is Nintendo and Game Freak somebody you really want to fuck around with when you're in their playing fields? The game is clearly an Unreal Engine type of game, and my biggest gripe with the game is the assets/designs. They don't match. In discussions online, some people say that they think most assets are placeholders, but personally, I just don't like having a realistic world/terrain like this, and then seeing fucking Shaun the Sheep roll up with some non-existing pores, or Pink Panther running away with a cutesy anime decal popping out of his head the second he realizes that I'm not actually a woman. Breath of the Wild looks beautiful because everything is a bit cartoony, or more akin to an oil painting if you want to get fancy. For a game like this, you kinda have to compare it to Breath of the Wild. But here in PALWORLD, you have guns, Sonic Frontier towers, Elden Ring churches, Xenoblade humans, Breath of the Wild terrain just in 4K and less oil painting-ish. And then you have Dragon Quest Digimons, Pokemon, pals. Pals, you have pals. Let's just get to the hot topic at this point. It is very much a monster collecting game. While the concept of collecting monsters isn't exactly Pokemon in itself, I would say monster collecting is a genre, and Pokemon is just a subgenre of that genre. It just happens to be the least submissive one of them all. And a lot of people online are fighting each other because of this, and let's be honest, both sides are stupid, because that's how modern debating is nowadays. One side will tell you that this is the game that Game Freak or Nintendo needed to make for a long time, but saying that Pokemon needed guns or to be used as slaves is frankly retarded. I would say the whole thing about Pokemon is that the need for weapons is essentially gone, since the creatures literally become your weapons, not to say you can't use the pals as weapons in game, but the slave part is a bit different. Is it cool that you can utilize creatures to work campfires or watermills? Yeah, but I think sometime soon, PETA would knock our doors down and we would have to talk about the morals of having some cutesy penguins manufacture assault weapons for us. So is the idea of another monster collecting game done well? I would have to say yes. At least the mechanic of collecting monsters is implemented well. It is pretty much what people have been wanting for a while, but I understand why it probably isn't doable with the current toaster hardware that the ninjas of Nintendo have locked themselves to. This is a game that pretty much needs a heavier console or a healthy PC, as seen by the holy fuck minimum requirements. Don't forget, this game combines a lot of mechanics from other popular games as well, and they have seemingly done it well. So is it any wonder that it has done well at all? And add a feature that most people can only compare to Pokemon, then why wouldn't it be a success? Especially at half the price of what most game companies will charge you for anyway, and considering that it's on the Game Pass as well, no wonder the word spread so quickly. Pokemon fans, Game Freak haters, and general big corpo bad cocks aside, the game is good, I can't deny that, but the PAL's designs, not so much, for a number of reasons. The accusations of plagiarism and AI. As for plagiarism, we have 3D model comparisons and side-by-side comparisons for some monsters, clearly showing how scary similar some monsters are. Of course, some comparisons are just grasping at straws, and most of it is subjective after all. As for the AI accusations, the CEO of Pocket Pair, the team behind the game, is clearly positive towards the use of AI as seen by his previous tweets. They also have their own AI Among Us art game, so there's that. A lot of people were quick to judge and said that AI had a huge role in the making of this game. I'm not denying that it might be a possibility, considering what the CEO has tweeted in the past and, you know, the company's behavior in the past, which is not exactly a good starting point, but currently as I'm writing and making this video, there isn't any hard evidence that AI was actually used the way some people believe it was. Now I don't know about you, but I feel like Digimon, Yokai Watch, Pokemon and Dragon Quest all have their brand style. While some of their designs can easily slip in the back door and pretend to be from one of the other franchises, most of them probably won't be able to. But for PALWORLD's designs, I just see too many similarities between them. Even when I look at some of them for the very first time, I can already see similarities or see a familiar shape. What are you supposed to be? Okay, you look like a fucking Eevee. Of course, it's hard to come up with original designs for monsters when there is already over 1,000 of them at this point, but really where people draw the subjective line of what is copying, plagiarizing, stealing, and inspiration, it's just that, a subjective line. That means it depends on their feelings and opinions. I can't predict the future, but seeing as Nintendo or Game Freak has yet to start any legal action, despite the game being announced way back in 2021, I wouldn't exactly try to rain on somebody else's parade if they enjoy the game, and especially not send death threats or start any stupid internet shit just because of a game. Just say you're not morally comfortable playing the game or that you feel guilty if you were to play it. I know I personally feel a bit guilty enjoying this game, especially seeing how the company currently has 3 early access games on Steam, one of them being about 3 years old at this point. Pocket Pair's previous game, Craftopia, which has recently been review bombed, probably due to how the consumers are mostly negative towards the game now, not being out of early access after years of development, and now shitting their pants at the thought of possibly being completely abandoned for Pocket Pair's new golden child. I understand how it's especially concerning when you compare the two games to each other side by side, and there's also
oh my god, bro. Oh, hell no.
Not to mention their Nevergrave game that looks very similar to Hollow Knight in my personal opinion, and since it's not out yet I can't say much more than that. And quickly looking at another game of theirs called Overdungeon, a lot of the reviews compare to Slay the Spire, but with some better features. So on a quick glance, like the one I used when looking into this company, I would honestly say that this is an indie game company, if you can call it that has a lot of freedom and seems somewhat amateurish to certain approaches and the way they handle things. But only time will tell of how they will handle their old games and new games side by side, which is probably scarier for the consumers of Craftopia rather than the consumers of PALWORLD. If they leave Craftopia in the dirt, then there's not much the consumers can do. But to comment on the company itself a bit generally, I would have to say that it's a game company that mainly focuses on making games combining a bunch of popular features from other successful games. It might not be the most original ideas put together, but at least they do it seemingly well so far, so I can't hate on them for that. But that is pretty much what I have to say about the game, controversy, designs, and the company itself. The designs just remind me too much of Pokemon, and when they don't, I just don't really like them at all. What the fork is this? This might be a wake-up call for Nintendo or Game Freak, showing how much potential there is in an open-world Pokemon-style adventure that isn't shit. The whole topic about the use of AI is still fresh and will be a hard debate to keep civil for a long while, and it is developing faster than most of us can keep up with, so no wonder it is difficult to talk about at all. But until there's any legal action or harder evidence potentially surfacing about the development of this game and how scary similar some monster designs are, I don't think there's much more to say about it other than to let people enjoy their games, but that you are also freely allowed to express your own opinion, as long as that opinion isn't how Yokai Watch is better than a Puss in Boots game. Owen?